Hello. Good morning. Thank you, Alan. And Alan, surprise for you. You're actually my last thing of the day, as in I can actually make the panel. So how about that? There you go.
Absolutely. And
And
nobody deserves a vacation more than you do, Joe, I tell you.
thank you. Well, as Alan said, my name is Joe Fugere. I'm the IT Service Center and Experience Director. And yeah, it's let's see, about 6:40 Alaska time in the morning. So first poll question: how many think that Alan owes me a car or something? For getting me up this early. Okay. Anyways, yeah, let's carry on. Thank you everyone for joining today. And yeah, I'm gonna spend about 25 minutes just talking about what we've been able to do at the University of Alaska in the area of experience and the impact it's made and also using XLAs. Um, Student experience was our first focus, and let's go ahead and jump in. So the agenda is going to be how did we get started, uh, which I'll tell you a little bit about that in just a second, and then moving on, how did we think XLAs would be helpful to us, and then how did we go about introducing XLAs, and then what are the results that we've seen from doing that. So let me give you a little history of what happened in 2020 when the COVID pandemic hit. And this is pretty much global, I believe. A lot of the universities and the students in the universities, most went to a remote posture in which all classes were remote. So you went from full classrooms to remote, and you went from this to this. And um, as that happened, it's a new style of learning when you're remote and you got a lot of like lectures and not so much interactiveness. And what was happening, as I said, globally, is a lot of students were starting to drop out, and so most universities saw a major decrease as the time went on for the next year. Um, in their student population, which of course, tuition is the revenue. And of course, if that goes down, then you see yourself starting to get a little bit of trouble. So the University of Alaska, um, in 2022, after realizing, a good year and a half of this, they knew that they had to really pay special attention to the students. And, there was a lot of anxiety, and mental struggles that they were going through. And, we had to help them. We had to reach out. We had to really, make them feel, that, you know, inclusive, and also just trying to get them to, understand that, hey, we're there for them. So the first thing that happened is we came up with our student success department, and their goal was really fourfold. One is to attract new students and retain current students. Um, the other thing is, again, we wanted them to graduate, so we had to increase. Their goal was to increase the graduation rates, and then to grow the student population. So that department was a new department that was formed just to focus on students. In 2023, and as Alan mentioned, I started taking some courses around experience management. And I started just with CX and just working on customer experience. But then after that, got into XLAs and more just global experience management, and it just was perfect timing for what the university was doing. So the way we approached it, which might be different than you will, but we decided in IT that, hey, let's take some training, let's get trained up on some of this, and let's try it. Let's see if it's going to work. Let's see the impact before we take it outside of IT. So it's sort of like eat your own dog food, right? We start. I got a task force together of about 6 or 7 people, most of them from my team, and which, by the way, is meant to mention at the beginning. So there's two teams I run. It's the service desk and also the field services, which is the desktop and AV in the classrooms. That's what we support. So I grabbed about 5 or 6 people from my team, 1 or 2 from another team, and we started down this journey of learning about experience and starting to apply this towards student experience. So, but before we could really get started, we had to figure out where we were. So we had to do some analysis around, what is the student journey and what do we do at each step of that as an IT department. And so this is where we started. We call this the explore stage, where we looked at different sources of information, such as our student tickets that were coming in and our surveys. We also had another survey that we've been doing every year at the beginning of the year for student wants and needs and what they value. So we were looking at all that, but the most important thing we did was a student journey map. So starting from a time where a student is interested in the university all the way through graduation, what are all those events that happen? And then look at every one of those events, right? And then start looking at what do we do now and what could we be doing to improve the student experience. And so we did that exercise, and then we coupled that looking at the tickets and looking for the trends there of problems that students were having, and the surveys, and again, the wants and needs. And once we did that, we started meeting with that student success department and saying, hey, here's where IT sees, this is what we're doing today, and this is what we like to do in the future. Would you please share your strategic goals that you have for students, and let's try to blend these together and make sure we're aligned. And so we did that exercise. And so what we came up with is about 7 initiatives that we were going to start off with in the first year. This quote at the end was very satisfying. The head of the Student Success Department pulled me aside one day after we went through this, and she goes, in my 20 years at working at 3 universities, I've never seen an IT department align so closely with student success's goals and integrate them into their initiatives. Once I heard that, I was like, man, we are on the right track. And this is where we really started getting excited about, doing experience, doing XLAs and things like that. So this is just a little example of what our journey map looked like, right? These are all the activities from when they're exploring, and I know you can't read it, that's fine. I just wanted to show you what, sort of give you a glimpse of what it looks like. But anyways, exploring at the beginning, all the way through applying and admittance, through orientation, and then what we call the academic life. Once they're a student, every year they circle around and do these different things, all the way through then they graduate and become alumni. And as I said, we looked at every one of those circles and said, okay, what are we doing today and what can we be doing in the future? So why did we think XLAs would be helpful to us? Well, after we had those 7 student initiatives, we're used to doing operational metrics and technical metrics all day long, right? But we hadn't been doing experience metrics. So what is the experience the students having with each of these initiatives that we're going to do? And so there we go, enter the XLA. So if you haven't seen an XLA, this is sort of what it looks like. You have at the beginning, you sort of have your vision and mission, what you're trying to do, what's the desired outcome. And so for us, one of the projects we were doing, we had to help secure student information. Was MFA for Students XLA. MFA for students. And one of the things that we knew is we already knew going in that students were going to be a little annoyed by this. So we knew that, hey, we're not going to get high scores on this, but we hope to make it better as we go along. And that's exactly what happens. I'll show you in a second. But so we want to provide them peace of mind by delivering a seamless, secure, and user-friendly multi-factor authentication solution, ensuring their accounts and personal information are secure and protected. And the next line is, what are those XIs? What are the experience indicators we want to measure? So as you can see from the top line, Were you able to complete the MFA setup without IT support? And then on a scale of 1 to 5, we were measuring, how secure, seamless, and easy was it to use? And then do you feel your accounts or in personal information are more secure because of this? And those are the sentiment questions we want to measure. After that, who's responsible and for that item, and then what are those metrics we talked about, the operational metrics and the technical metrics. And so those are the things we were going to measure as part of that. All right, so we did have another one that happened a little bit into the MFA. We decided that we need to put up a chat to make things better, and I'll show you where that happened in just a second. But yeah, to simplify and increase student engagement, it's their love language, right? With IT support for offering additional communication channels so they can use their preferred communication method. So this just gives you an example of a couple of the XLAs that we had going on. And here are the results. So we created what we call an experience reference matrix, XRM. And this is where we were able to bring together the experience metrics that we were getting back from these initiatives and with the operational metrics and marrying them together and getting one score together. So you were measuring both. And it allowed us every month to analyze the results in the surveys, and so that we could take action to improve the results. And that's exactly what you're going to see here, is our XRM. So as you could see, starting in January when we started the MFA, we didn't have the experience side down. We were working on it. So at the beginning, we were just measuring our operational metrics. Okay, and so you could see they were sort of yellow in January. And some of those metrics, as I pointed out earlier, those were the CSAT scores, the ticket counts for FCR, and then usage counts, and then how many authentication failures and successes were people having when they tried to do MFA, and scoring that. And then it got a little better in February, and then we introduced the surveys, the XI surveys. And as you can see, the score came in pretty low that first one, and that first month, and we knew that. We knew that people were going to be a little frustrated with this. And by the way, in January and February and March, it was optional. We didn't, we said, hey, it's coming, but go ahead and enroll early and give them the opportunity to apply. But then in April is when we made it mandatory. And so as you can see on the bottom, you could see that in January, February, March, you could see operationally we got better at it and it became smoother. And then in March, we were seeing the effect on the sentiment scores, and we said, we need to do more. So as I said, we introduced chat, and we did more things to get the knowledge base articles into the hands of the students so they could do it themselves. And you could start to see the sentiment scores go up a little bit. And then by May, when again, at the end of April is when we went where we had to be mandatory. So again, you see some increase, but then, as I said, in May, we finally were hitting green and mostly green in our operations. And as I said, in the sentiment scores continuing to grow. And so that's how we were able to use the XLA and adjust every month to do more to make this a better experience for the student. So that pretty much, there was one more thing I wanted to call out here, and that was, as this was new to us. This was our first implementation of experience. And so we were also trying just to feel, are we doing it the right way? And that's where Neil and Alan both helped us and helped us get through this and understand, yeah, you're doing the right thing, and helped us with, this XLA, XLR, sorry, the XRM. There we go. To get through that and like I said, by May we were just to see the progress of measuring and adjusting. It ended up being a really good experience for our students, even into June, where again the semester ended, and we were doing starting summer sessions, and we were seeing the scores, continue to be in the green and the yellow. And I do want to call out one other thing. You'll hear this today probably several times, and that is the watermelon metric, where in March, that's exactly when we started this. That's exactly what we had. We had our operationals were all green. They were looking good. But notice there was still a problem. We were red in experience, right? And sentiment. And so that's called the watermelon metric. But then you could see in April and May, we started to get better at the experience, at the sentiment, doing things to help the students and improving that sentiment. So it's really important you're able to measure both sentiment and operations, and that's what the XLA and the XRM will help you do. And I believe that is the end of my presentation. So thank you very much for hanging in there with me, and 5 minutes for questions.
Well, thank you so much, Joe. This is super, super cool. And I love the fact that you dug into the deep end immediately with the whole XRM. That's a complicated subject. I'm sure now that you know more, and we have another conversation, we can sharpen that as well. But you're a pioneer, and I think what I certainly admire about you is just let's just get it done. Let's just get stuff done. Let's just see how far we get on with it. So I don't know if there are any questions. Here, we've got one from Monique. What did you find the most difficult in the process when creating this, Joe?
Yeah, I have that answer. So remember, I started this when I came back from attending some classes, and the biggest, hardest challenge was getting IT people to understand the value of experience. That was, I mean, go try to talk to an engineer who is, night and day sitting in front of their computer, coding and building and stuff, and you're trying to talk to them about experience. So then when we started showing the value of, hey, you affect this. You're not the front line, but you still affect this. And so one of the things now we've done is we've included an experience section in our project charters, and we could see who the IT owner is for that, who sometimes is on the infrastructure side, and we say, hey, what are you trying to do with this? What do you think? What's the vision with this, and what's the impact to the user? So that's how we've started to incorporate and sell them on this as, hey, they're a part of this. But when we first mentioned it, it hit like a lead balloon. It was like, what? I don't want to think about that. I just want to think about my coding. So that was a big challenge, but we got there.
So Matt's also, first of all, he's congratulating you on a great presentation. He's asking, what would you change, if anything, based on what you now know, having gone through this?
One thing I didn't mention is how the importance of evangelization is when you do something like this. A lot of people, they start at the top down, and that, I think sometimes that's a mistake because maybe there's no money there. And I've heard that people take we're in the class I was in, come back a year later, and they're like, I said, hey, what have you done? And they're like, well, nothing. I tried to do this. There was no money, and it got cut. And so I think at the beginning, I would try to evangelize a little more when I came back beyond IT and start talking to others. And we did that with a very important person at the university, and that's what we call the VCAS, which is the Vice Chancellor of Academic Services. And he got it. And he said, hey, show me, don't tell me. So that's what gave us the kick in the pants, if you will, to start moving forward and focus on students. And we came back to him after, and he was like, wow, great, I see it. Now, work with my employee experience group and teach them. And so that's what we're doing now.
Super cool, super cool. Pramod's asking, what did you do if users aren't sharing feedback as experience? Because it's yet another survey, and students are
Right.
notoriously fickle. So how did you encourage the sharing? How did you encourage getting that feedback?
Right. So a couple things. First off, we put it in everything that we did to touch that student. All right. So I mentioned that the second month in, we created the SMS chat, and we had the surveys going right there in the SMS chat. We were encouraging when we had them on the line, we had them on the on the chat or the phone. Right there, we said, hey, we really would love your input because we want to make this great for students. So we're going to send you a survey. Please send, and it's only going to take you. It's only 5 questions. It's going to take you less than a minute to fill out. And please give us some feedback because we want to make this better and a better experience for the students. And the second thing we did is we went and talked to the student government, and we got entwined with them and said, hey, this affects you guys. It's going to affect you. Every student's going to have to go through this. Help us, partner with us to sell this, sell the importance of this, and then let us know how we did. So that was the second thing we did.
That's brilliant. I have one question myself, Joe, and that is, look, I remember that you were kind of skeptical when we started the training, and now
Yeah.
you are the most active guy on the planet when it comes to XLAs. Is there anybody else in your team that has caught the bug anywhere as close to you in terms of enthusiasm
Yes.
for the project?
Yes. Believe it or not, we have a business manager. So not an IT person, but our business manager who takes care of our finances and really into customer service, right? And so when I picked her, handpicked her to be on this team, she really got lit up and said, "Man, this is great." And then I started talking about forming an XMO, and I said, "You need to be on." This task force is going to turn into an XMO. And I said, you need to be on this because this is your passion. And so hopefully we were just securing some funds, but we're going to have her start attending some upcoming classes. So, yeah,
So the next presentation later in the series is going to be how to build an XMO in the higher ed.
beautiful. Nice leading. I thought you were going
Okay.
to ask me, Alan, what color car I wanted, but okay, never mind.
Well,
All
let's just see how the roundtable goes in the end.
right. Okay.
No,
All right.
but I'm really super happy that you're going to be available for questions, because I think some of this just
Yep.
has to sink in, so people will come up with new ideas. Again, I just always enjoy your enthusiasm. It's unprecedented, and I do think enthusiasm moves mountains.
Yeah.
Especially when budget's a problem. You can go a long way by being enthusiastic and getting
Yep. That,
people on board.
that is exactly what we did. As I said, everyone got fired up. They started seeing the value, and then we started taking it, outside IT, and so it's starting to grow.
No, I love it. I love it. I love it. So, okay. Well, thank you, Joe. We'll see you back at the round table.
Okay,
And
thank you. Appreciate it.
no, very much so. Very much so.